Yo, what is up, guys? The boy IzuKage here with a new what if. And this what if is what if Naruto was trained by Itachi. And this is going to be a 1K special, so it's a bit longer video than usual. I think, yeah, it's around 40 minutes, so hope you guys enjoy it. It was, a lot of fun to write, and yeah, hope you enjoy, and let's begin. Also, if the audio sounded a bit different, it's because I'm not recording in my usual location. I had to switch it up a bit. So I hope it doesn't sound too bad. And yeah. So the story starts off at the Nine Tails attack. Kushina has restrained the Nine Tails and Minato is trying to seal him within Naruto, within baby Naruto, as a last resort with the Reaper Death Seal. But the Nine Tails broke free and tried attacking Naruto. Kushina and Minato stepped in, blocking the attack, and with limited time they had to live. Minato performs the Reaper Death Seal, sealing half the Nine Tails within Naruto and other within himself, and dies, leaving Kushina with seconds to live. She comforts the crying Naruto and says, starts telling him not to give any trouble and eat all his vegetables. Meanwhile, Hiruzen and his personal Anbu appeared, seeing their dead Hokage and a near-dead Kushina. She tells Hiruzen the baby's name and tells him to take care of Naruto, and she dies. Hiruzen swears on his life to keep Naruto safe Hiruzen swears on his life to keep Naruto's safe as Kushina dies in his arms. He takes Naruto in as his own while the village is being reconstructed. 4 years later, and Naruto is running around with baby Konohamaru in his arms, who was born 3 months ago. While doing so, he bumps into the leg of an Anbu member guarding the Hokage's room. He falls back on his butt and still holding Konohamaru, who begins crying. The Anbu member bends his knees to get on their level, and he takes Konohamaru, starts rocking him, calming him down. And Naruto was still a bit scared because the Anbu members were always mysterious to him. Always standing in the dark and wearing those scary masks. But this Anbu just ruffled Naruto's hair, then gave Konohamaru back to him. Naruto walked off towards his room, and later that day, Hiruzen called Naruto to his office. It says he has to give Naruto his own house, but he won't have to worry about the money. I'd say even though Naruto is like 4, he has somewhat of an understanding of money. I really can't come up with an idea of why Hiruzen would do this, so yeah, that's pretty dumb to me, but sure. So this happens and Naruto gets his house similar to Canon, a 1-bedroom apartment with basic essentials like a kitchen and bathroom. And bedroom, of course. Naruto mainly stays in his house but does go out once in a while. But whenever he does, he always gets these dirty glares from the villagers. And when he tries playing with the kids on the playground, their parents always separate them from him. This goes on for 3 years and no villager has tried touching Naruto because they know he's protected by the Hokage. After all, he lived with him for years. So let's switch perspective to Kid Sasuke, only 7 years old, a year before he's supposed to start the academy. As he is walking home from playing with some kids, he walked through the Uchiha compound and it was awfully quiet. On his way home, he knocked on some of his friends' house, but no response. All the shops have closed early, but it wasn't a holiday, which confused him. And while he's walking on a flickering streetlight, he briefly saw a ninja with Anbu-style armor as he got close with Anbu-style armor, but disappeared. As he got closer to his house, he saw his aunt and uncle dead in the road. Being a bit traumatized by this, he runs home, comes in screaming his parents' names, but to no reply, just a dark, empty, and quiet house. He goes to his parents' room where he sees Itachi standing over He starts saying, Itachi, is that you? I saw auntie and uncle dead outside. I'm scared. And as he says this, he hears a thud. He looks down to see on the floor both his parents drop dead, and Itachi wiping the blood off his sword. He begins crying. Why, brother? I know Dad always overworked you, but why do this? And Itachi replies, Oh, little brother, I was just only testing my skills. Seems our clan is weaker than I thought. They didn't even put up a fight. Sasuke dropped to his knees crying, and Itachi put him into a genjutsu, looping his parents' death over and over, driving Sasuke insane, awakening his Sharingan. But as he got released from the genjutsu, he fell onto the floor, passed out. Now, let's switch back to Naruto. While this was happening to Sasuke, Naruto was walking to the Ichiraku to get a bowl of ramen. Approaching the stand, he felt someone cover his mouth, and another put a bag over his head. Naruto was dragged off by three male villagers into the forest near the Uchiha compound, because it was at the outskirts of the village. They tied Naruto to a tree trunk and took turns kicking him, one saying, "This is for my wife, this is for my kids," and the third one saying, "This is for my brother." This kept going on until Naruto was bloody and bruised. The kicks only got harder because the villagers noticed Naruto would start healing. Then the eldest villager says, "Okay, I've had enough. It's time for you to go where you belong, demon, and that's hell." The villager drew for a kunai from his pocket and thrusted it into Naruto. So while this is happening, Itachi put Sasuke in his bed, and he walked out saying, "I'm sorry, Sasuke, but I'm doing this because I love you." Then Itachi entered the forest to run away from the village, but heard a commotion. Itachi put on his Ambu mask and headed towards it. There he saw 3 villagers beating on Naruto. He decided not to step in, but one drew for a kunai, and as he went to stab Naruto, it was as if his body moved on its without him telling it to. Itachi jumped in, blocking the kunai with his short sword, and the man stumbled back. After regaining his footing, rage filled the man, and he went for another stab. But Itachi easily disarmed the villager, but he persisted. He began using his fists, and his two friends joined. Itachi, not wanting them to run back to the village to tell anyone about this, and figuring it's the easiest way to get out of this situation, he decides to kill them. Itachi uses his sword, stabs all 3 straight through the heart, killing them instantly. And after this, he frees Naruto, cutting the ropes tying him to the tree. But as he does this, he falls over exhausted and soon passes out. Itachi picks Naruto up and decides to make a fire next to a river nearby and waited for him to wake up. The next morning, the sun hit Naruto's eyes, causing him to wake up. He got up off the grass, rubbing his eyes to see a familiar face. Well, not face, more like a mask. The same mask of an Ambu member that always took care of him. Whenever he was in the mansion, and even when he got his own house, he would see him watching over him. Naruto smiled, knowing he was friendly, and Itachi began asking why was he being beaten up, along with some other questions, but Naruto didn't know the answer to any of them. But Itachi suspected it was because he was the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki. Itachi then turned to Naruto and said, "Well, kid, I saved you, but I have to go." Itachi began walking away, but Naruto shouted, "But that's not the way to the village." Itachi froze, and then Naruto continued, "Listen, I'm weak, no talent, and I'm always getting picked on. And it seems you're the strongest person your age, guessing you're around 16 and you're already in the Ambu? Please. And Naruto stands up and starts bowing. Can you train me? I don't want to be picked on and pushed around. Worse, be so useless that even in the face of death, I can't do anything. Itachi then turned around. Alright, training starts now. Itachi drew his sword and began swinging at Naruto, who was barely dodging each of his strikes, and after running away for a good bit, he says, "Stop, what are you trying to kill me?" Itachi just kept swinging at Naruto, and by midday, he fell over exhausted and fell asleep. Because this was going on for hours. So when he woke up, he smelled something good. He shot up to see 5 fish being cooked at the fire pit, and without a second thought, he began digging into them. While eating the 4th one, he realized the same Ambu in the darkness watching him, and Naruto shouted, "Hey, what was that about earlier? Were you trying to kill me?" Itachi spoke, "No. Well, yes, but you achieved one of your goals already." And Naruto responded, "Oh, what are you talking about? You were trying to kill me." And Itachi said again, "Earlier, I was only fighting you at 10%, but I had the intent to kill, and you survived. So being able to do something in the face of death, check that one off the list." Naruto sat back down, still eating his fish, then said, "What's your name anyways?" "Oh, I guess I never told you. It's Itachi Uchiha." Naruto went back to eating, thinking that he's heard the name before. The next day, as soon as Naruto woke up, he had a sword to his throat, and using what he had learned from the previous day, Naruto used his palm to hit the sword away and got onto his feet, backing up. Itachi, then beginning to actually try, started to attack Naruto with faster swipes of his sword, cutting Naruto's cheeks and arms, but they heal almost instantly. Naruto, realizing his healing ability, decides to take advantage of this. He grabbed Itachi's sword with his bare hand, causing it to bleed, and Naruto punched him in the face. He then jumped backwards, creating distance between the two. Itachi looked surprised and smiled. "I guess I took you too lightly, but you pass." "Pass what?" Naruto asked. Itachi then explains that Naruto had to get a hit on him before he could start training him. Naruto sighed, saying, "You could have explained that earlier." And as he went to sit down, exhausted, Itachi dragged him up and put a few heavy tree branches on his back, then told him to start running while dodging his attacks. This went on for the first week, and by the end of it, Naruto still had trouble carrying the branches, but it was way easier than before, and can now dodge Itachi's attacks with ease. Like when he's not going all out. And also remember, Naruto is 7 and Itachi is 13. Yeah. So he said, "Seems I'm catching up to you quickly, huh, Itachi sensei?" Itachi smiled, then activated his 3 Tomoe Sharingan. Now the training was like back to square one, but even harder. Itachi made Naruto do weight training and kenjutsu and increased his reaction time. In 2 months, Naruto could match Itachi, who would use his sword but no Sharingan. Then for the next 3 months, he refined Naruto's taijutsu and somewhat reaching his level but still needed mastery. And for the next 5 months, Itachi introduced Naruto to ninjutsu, showing him some basic chakra control techniques, and which he realized Naruto had a hard time with, but with constant repetition, he finally got it. And after testing his chakra natures and seeing he had an affinity to wind and lightning, from his mother and father, Naruto surprised Itachi by the speed at which he mastered the D-rank jutsu. He only took him 2 days. And jutsu like wind bullet and electric flash. And by the end of the 5 months, Naruto using, everything he has learned, could put up a good fight against a 3 Tomoe Itachi, but he would always get bodied in the end. After one of their spars, Itachi approached Naruto. Hey kid, I want to show you something. I've been holding on to these because I wanted to give my younger brother, but you'll make better use of them. Itachi then pulled out 2 pairs of Sharingan. Whose eyes are these, you may be asking? Well, these belong to Fugaku. He had taken them right after he killed him. And Naruto, knowing what these are, asks what they are, and Itachi goes on to explain. These are the Sharingan, and explains everything about them and its different stages and how to attain them. Naruto accepts the eyes, and within an hour he was able to see because the QB healed the injury. For the next 2 months, Itachi taught Naruto how to wield the Sharingan, and since they were already a 3 Tomoe, Naruto only needed to experience a traumatic experience to activate them. And Itachi simply put him in a genjutsu. So after the 2 months, they had a final spar. Naruto rushes towards Itachi, both their Sharingan activated. Naruto tries punching Itachi, but he dodges, and Itachi goes for a kick, and Naruto dodges because he sees this coming with the Sharingan, and this goes on for a couple minutes with both Naruto and Itachi getting a few hits in. Then Itachi says, "Wow, Naruto, you have grown tremendously, but this is what you have to look forward to." Itachi then activates his Mangekyo, forming the Susanoo ribcage and arm, and punches Naruto into a tree, knocking him out. Naruto then woke up. This is like a day later. Naruto then woke up back where he first got saved by Itachi, and next to him he sees a sword and a note. The note read, "Your training has officially ended. It's been a year, so you're 8, old enough to start the academy. So here's a little gift, my sword. Treat it well, because the next time we meet, it might be as enemies. Also, take care of Sasuke for me. He might be a bit rough around the edges, but guide him on the right path, the good path." Naruto, reading this, takes the swords and heads towards the village. At the village gate, he's stopped by the guards, who ask, "Who are you, and state your business." "I'm Naruto Uzumaki. Sad you guys don't remember me." They say, "Naruto, you disappeared a year ago." "Well, I'm back, so take me to the old man." So they do. They take him to see Lord Third, who is mad and worried. He asks, "Why did you leave the village? We thought you were kidnapped." And Naruto responded with a bit of anger in his voice. "Maybe you wouldn't be so worried if you actually cared about me. What I give..." And, the Hokage fires back. "What? I give you everything you need." Naruto says, "Yeah, you send the Anbu to give me $50 and rent is $30. I can't survive on $20 for food, for a month. Do you know what I eat? Spoiled milk, stale cereal, and packs of ramen because they're the cheapest thing in the store." Hiruzen looked down a bit disappointed in himself. How could he be so blind? First off, why did he leave a 4-year-old on his own? I still can't understand why Hiruzen did that in canon. Yeah, and he only found out he was missing 2 months ago. Naruto then walked out saying, "Don't be late for orientation tomorrow." No, because the Hokage always speaks to the new kids just coming into the academy. So Naruto goes home and gets his gear ready. Along with his sword, Itachi also left his Anbu mask. Also, keep in mind, Naruto is still only 8, but really mature because he gets some of his traits from Itachi during their training. So the next day, Naruto goes to the academy, and outside they have a little assembly where Hiruzen speaks to the new students. Basically, everyone in Naruto's class in canon. Naruto was sitting up front, and from the corner of his eyes, he saw Sasuke. Then the assembly ended, and all the fangirls were walking behind him, trying to get a seat behind, Sasuke. But as he sat down, Naruto sat right next to him, causing all the girls to start shouting in anger. But Naruto ignored them, and Sasuke wasn't even paying attention to any of them. The only thoughts on his mind were revenge, avenging his clan. So classes go on, and we're gonna have a 2-year time skip. So Naruto and his class were all 10 years old, and the first 2 years of the academy is just basic education for any civilians who didn't want to be a ninja. So everyone in Naruto's class chose to become a ninja, and over these 2 years, Naruto has tried talking to Sasuke, but always gets the cold shoulder. So Naruto decides to do this the hard way. One day when Sasuke is going home, Naruto followed him to the Uchiha compound. When Sasuke got home, he immediately goes to bed. He has nothing better to do. So while lying down, Sasuke sensed something a bit familiar, resembling his father, but he ignores this and forces himself to go to sleep. While he's sleeping, in his dreams, he sees something from the day his parents died, his brother. And before he passed out, Sasuke saw Itachi looking down at him, crying. Sasuke shot up out of his bed in a cold sweat and began looking around. Then he turns to his window and he sees a pair of Sharingan. He rubbed his eyes and they disappeared. Thinking he's just seeing this, Sasuke just got up and got ready to go to school. But it was still early, so not a lot of people were at school. He walked into class to see Naruto. He went down to sit next to him and began glaring at him. But something Sasuke didn't realize was Naruto's eyes. They were black, completely black, like an Uchiha's. So later that day, Iruka decides to have the first sparring matches. Some irrelevant people fight, it really doesn't matter who wins. So let's get to Naruto versus Sasuke. They enter the ring and Sasuke makes the first move, barraging Naruto with punches, but they all miss. Naruto then kicks Sasuke in the stomach, making him drop to the ground, coughing up spit. He then looked up to Naruto, who used 2 fingers to tap Sasuke on the forehead, similar to what Itachi always did. Then Iruka called the match. Naruto wins, and all of Sasuke's fangirls began booing Naruto, but he just ignored them. After school, Sasuke decided to follow Naruto, thinking he did some secret training to get that strong. And what was up with the forehead thing? And his black eyes and the Sharingan he saw? Sasuke was just filled with questions he needed answers to. So he follows Naruto to the ramen stand, and inside he sees Naruto eating a bowl, so he decides to enter. He orders a bowl of ramen and began side-eyeing Naruto, who then spoke up. "You need something, Uchiha?" Sasuke's body then automatically tensed up, but he said, "How did you beat me so easily? You were always weak." Naruto smirked, saying, "A ninja's greatest tool is the art of deception. Now eat off your ramen, it's gonna get cold." Sasuke turned to see Teuchi handing him his bowl, but when he looked back to Naruto, he was gone. But he left a note saying, "Meet me at training ground B for answers." And Naruto drew a little 3 Tomoe Sharingan at the bottom of the paper, which made Sasuke even more curious. So the next day, Sasuke goes to the meeting place. He goes to the training ground and sees Naruto just punching a log, breaking each of them with 1 punch. Sasuke then approaches Naruto and begins letting out all the questions he wants answers to. And Naruto saying, "Calm down, you'll get those eventually." And Naruto drew for his sword and basically began doing the same thing Itachi did to him. It was swiping at Sasuke, causing him to get a few cuts in the process. Sasuke is just barely dodging these and says, "Are you trying to kill me?" And Naruto says, "If I kill you, I kill you. It's nothing to me." And Sasuke begins actually trying and kicks the sword out of Naruto's hand, which surprises him a bit. And Naruto said, he slips up and said, "It seems Itachi did train you a little bit." And then Sasuke said, "What do you know about Itachi?" Naruto just quickly shuts up. He's like, "Shit, I let that slide." He was supposed to say that. So Naruto begins answering some of Sasuke's questions, like how he got so strong. He just says he trained for a year straight, giving him bland answers. Some Sasuke just weren't satisfied with, so that happens. And Naruto gives Sasuke some advice. They actually start meeting at the training ground to train, some days of the week. And Sasuke gets a bit stronger, but nothing really noteworthy. So this goes on, and Naruto is the top of his class in the academy. Sasuke not even being close to his skill level. And let's have a 3-year time skip to where Naruto is 13 and they're having their graduation exams. Also, to avoid all the villagers, Naruto just jumps from rooftop to rooftop to get home. So, the graduation exams. Mizuki always hated Naruto because he was so, talented. He was the best in his class and he always saw him as a demon. So Mizuki tried putting a genjutsu on Naruto's paper so he would just make random markings on it. But Naruto saw through this and answered the questions and actually gave Iruka his paper within a minute, and they had an hour to complete the paper, shocking everyone in the class, some people thinking he just put down nonsense. So after an hour, Iruka collects all the papers and everyone goes outside to do their practicals, to the practical portion of the exams. They do shuriken training, which Naruto does, gets 100% in, hitting all the targets, dead on. And for the shuriken throwing, he does the same thing that Itachi did, jumping into the air and then spinning around, throwing all the shuriken at the targets. Which, this caught Sasuke's eye. He only saw his brother do this once before. So after this, they have spar training with it's the students versus their teachers, and everyone just who passes in canon passes, and it's actually Naruto versus Iruka and Mizuki. They basically wanted to test him because he's the best in the class. They always do this with the top students. So this happens and Naruto takes down Iruka and Mizuki with ease. Naruto rushes towards them as the match begins and first attacks Mizuki. He full force punches him in the stomach, which causes Mizuki to hold his stomach, then uppercuts him, causing him to land on his back, but he got up. Mizuki is pretty resilient. So Naruto backs up and does a lightning style. He does lightning style electric flash, and then a bolt of lightning shoots off from Naruto's palm to Mizuki, causing him to be burnt up by the electricity. And Iruka actually sneaks up behind Naruto while he was busy with Mizuki. And Naruto, actually not seeing this coming, had to activate his Sharingan for a split second, and no one saw except Sasuke. or at least he thought he saw. But Naruto perceived Iruka's movements and went right behind him, chopping him in the neck, knocking him out. So Naruto wins, he gets his headband, and they wait for their team leader. They get assigned their team. Naruto gets assigned to Team 7. It's the regular Team 7. Also, I'm not sure, about the ship, so you guys can leave that in the comments, what you want the ship to be. So Naruto is in the classroom with his team waiting for Kakashi to come. And as usual, he's really, really late. But while they were in class waiting, Naruto is sitting beside Sasuke. And Sasuke asks Naruto about what he saw. Naruto plays this off as him just seeing things, but Sasuke still has this in the back of his mind. So Kakashi comes and tells them to meet him on the top of the roof. He says, they go up to Kakashi, and he tells them to introduce themselves and tells them his goals. So this happens, and it's the same as canon, but Sakura doesn't really hate Naruto because he acts the same like Sasuke. He's basically Sasuke but less emo. And Naruto actually grew out his hair, so it's similar to Itachi's but still not that long. So this happens, and when it's Naruto's turn, he says his names, his likes, his dislikes, and says his goal is to put someone on the right path. And this piques Kakashi's interest because when Sasuke was talking about his revenge, the first thing he thought of was he was on the wrong path. And to hear Naruto say he wants to put someone on the right path, it really piqued Kakashi's interest. So he tells them to meet him at the training ground, and as Naruto is jumping across rooftops trying to get home, Sasuke actually stops him and asks him about what he saw. Be more specific, the Sharingan he saw. Asks about it again because he did ask him in class, and Naruto decides, this is probably the best way to get Sasuke stop Sasuke from trying to get revenge on his brother. So they go to the Uchiha compound, and Naruto shows Sasuke his eyes to be shows him the Sharingan. And Naruto activating his Sharingan actually caused Sasuke's Sharingan to activate. It was on instinct. So this happens, and Naruto basically explains that Itachi actually trained him for a while. And Naruto says Itachi isn't a bad guy. He probably did this because of someone, and he's trying to figure out who pushed Itachi off the edge, because while they were training, Naruto grew a bond towards Itachi, more not even student teacher, brotherly bond. So Sasuke is just Sasuke doesn't know what to think. Like a while ago he wanted to kill his brother, and now he's hearing this. He's just confused, and he asks Naruto for some time just to think. And so Sasuke does, and Naruto goes home, and he goes home to think about and process all of the information he was just told. So later that night, Sasuke actually knocks on Naruto's door. He answers, and he asks Naruto can he train him, because he wants to get strong enough to bring Itachi back to the village. Naruto smiles and says, yeah, sure. He says, yeah, sure. So the next day rolls around, and this is the bell test with Kakashi. Yeah, Kakashi explains, explains the basis of the bell test, that you need to get the bells and only two people can pass. Those are the two people who get the bells from him. And this raises a red flag in Naruto's brain, like saying he's never seen a like 3-man team. He's always seen 4-man team with 3 Genins and a sensei. So Naruto thinks, there's something more to this, but doesn't really say anything else. So the test begins and all 3 of them disappear into the forest, making Kakashi a bit glad, thinking that this team actually has a chance at beating this for once, because all the other teams he's had, they've all failed, like not using teamwork, stuff like that. So I could leave it here, but alright, it's the 1K special, I can't do that. I was trying for an hour, but there's no way I'm making an hour. So Naruto, thinking there's more to this, goes and devises a plan with Sasuke, and Sakura's, I don't know, out somewhere picking flowers. Like, yeah, I really don't care. So he comes up with a plan with Sasuke to take the bells, and so from Kakashi's point of view, Kakashi's walking around trying to find Naruto and Sasuke. He can send Sakura deep into the forest, and he already made a shadow clone to go deal with her. And then he sends his Sasuke in the bush right next to him. He throws a kunai, but then a white rabbit hops out. He was really confused. He actually swear thought that was a person. And while he was thinking about this, the real Sasuke actually snuck up behind him and punched Kakashi, but he quickly dodged and grabbed Sasuke's wrist, slamming him to the ground, but it poofed into smoke, a shadow clone. This made Kakashi smile, an even wider smile. He's like, okay, these guys can actually do something. They're not useless. He can actually have a decent fight. Yeah, so the real Sasuke actually jumps out of the bush and does a fireball jutsu, shooting it towards Kakashi, who wasn't expecting this and actually barely dodges, singeing his shoulder plates. And Kakashi was, really impressed, like, whoa, he knows, fire style. Not a lot of Geni know how to know any elemental jutsu. And while thinking about this, Naruto does a wind bullet at Kakashi, knocking him back a little because he wasn't expecting this. Like, he was really underestimating them. He was still reading his book. So Kakashi decides, he's like, okay. He puts down his book and takes out his Sharingan, like, these guys are actually worth my time. So Kakashi runs towards Sasuke with a kunai in hand, and Sasuke with his own dodges all of Kakashi's attacks, parries the attacks with his own kunai, and jumps back, and a fight similar to Canon breaks out, a taijutsu battle, which Sasuke loses, and as Kakashi was going for the final hit, Sasuke activates his one Tomoe Sharingan, dodging the attack and kicking Kakashi in the chest, knocking him back a bit. Kakashi was surprised that he can even activate his Sharingan, because he never knew, and in this state of being surprised, he's off guard. So Naruto sneaks up behind Kakashi with his Sharingan activated and kicks him in the arm, dislocating his shoulder and causing him to fall on the ground, which gave him time to take one of the bells. But before he could take the other, Kakashi regained his footing. So let's take a break from this fight. While this is happening, Sakura's just in the forest, as I said, picking flowers or something, and she gets put into the same genjutsu as before and gets taken advantage from Kakashi, who just ties her up in a rope or something. So back to the fight. So Naruto and Sasuke are having a standoff against Kakashi, and Naruto decided to deactivate his Sharingan because he doesn't want Kakashi to know he has one. So Naruto and Sasuke does a fireball jutsu, combining both of them, making them even larger, to where when Kakashi dodged, he singed up most of his clothes, causing it to like be burnt to a crisp. Naruto wanted to take advantage of the fact that Kakashi would never think, they're stronger than him. He actually made a clone of Sakura. He actually made a clone of himself and transformed it into, one looking like Sakura. So Sakura jumped out of the bush, and while Kakashi was charging towards the three, Naruto blocked the attack, and Sakura goes in for a punch. And Kakashi, thinking, she's pretty weak, it won't do that much damage, actually gets like blown away because Naruto put a little chakra into the punch, causing, more damage than expected. So Kakashi gets blown back, and while he's flown back, Naruto grabs the other bell and tosses it towards Sasuke. Kakashi then lands on his feet and goes back into a fighting stance, but then both Naruto and Sasuke raise the bells, jingle it in his face. And Kakashi's just like, damn, these kids are good. And he says, alright, you guys pass, but next time, please incorporate Sakura. And then Naruto's like, what are you talking about? We did. And he points to his clone, and he's like, the real Sakura. And then Naruto just, smirks a bit, and then the clone Sakura just poofs away, and the clone Kakashi brings Sakura back to the group. So yeah, Team 7 passes the bell test, and I'll keep going. So Team 7 passes the bell test. They do the regular D rank missions, but between Naruto and Sasuke, they want to actually test themselves. Sasuke getting a bit stronger because Naruto is training with him almost every day, and Naruto just wanting to test himself to see how strong he is. Just wants to do a better mission. So while they were getting a D rank mission from the Hokage, they asked for a higher rank mission, and he reluctantly gives them a C rank mission, the same as canon, to protect a bridge builder, Tazuna, to the Land of Waves. And Tazuna walks in and sees the three. He's like, they're kids, but I guess these two look strong. I don't know about the girl. This makes Sakura a bit angry. She does her inner monologue stuff. And yeah. So the next day they meet Tazuna at the village gates, and they set off for the Land of Waves. And that's where I'm going to leave this one off. Dang, these long videos are draining, but hope you guys enjoyed it. And so I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for sticking to the end of the video. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next What If.